Just a minute, Mother. 1 minute.
All the secrets away?
Secrets?
Having to lie, I feel, is the saddest and the ugliest part of being a homosexual. When you have your first bad love experience, for instance, and you can't go to your brother or your sister and say, I'm hurting.
Well, you don't think Jane and I would do something like that, do you? Well, you don't think Jane and I would do something like that, do you? Would do something like that, do you?
You have to be accepted as a human being and as a woman. Right. Together, right? Yeah.
I'm surprised I chose myself.
You recommend it?
Absolutely. That's where I think it's at.
At first, I was very guilty. And then I realized that all the things that are taught you not only by society but by psychiatrists are just to fit you in a mold. And I just rejected the mold, and when I rejected the mold, I was happier.
Well, Jane finally got off for Cleveland. Still not too certain she was doing right by leaving George and Jimmy by themselves. Even though George was absolutely sure they'd get along just fine. That's what he said, just fine.
Never knows when the homosexual is about. He may appear normal, and it may be too late when you discover he is mentally ill.
How do you choose a date? Whose company would you enjoy? Woody thought of Janet and how good-looking she was. He'd really have to rate to date somebody like her. Yes, he'd enjoy that, except, well, it's too bad Janice always acts so superior and bored.
I want to say how deeply I am touched by this honor that has been given to me tonight, but I feel that those who should have been with us and were unable to be here are the ones that are really responsible for my success. That's my doctors and my friends. Thank you again.
Oh, really? If straight people can do all this carrying on and holding hands and kids in the park, why can't we do it? All right.
It really finally comes down to finding one other person to love and be loved by, and you serve each other's needs. Finding one other person to love and be loved by. Finding one other person to love and be loved by. Finding one other person to love and finding one other person to love and be loved by. It really finally comes down to,
well, perhaps someone who doesn't feel superior. There's Betty. What about Anne? There's Betty. What about Anne? There's Betty. What about Anne?
The added stress of being a homosexual in a heterosexual society causes a lot of torment in the homosexual relationships of women. Yes, it does. A lot of women seem to think that if they're with women because they've rejected men in that sense, but if they come to realize they're with women because they want to be and have rejected a role, then they wouldn't be guilty. Closet queen.
You ask for a date.
indeed, I'm just sorry that it took so long. I'm sorry that I spent so many years in the closet.
Your dog gay?
Yes.